Hello, so this was a requested video. I'll just get the gas mask out to show you. Oh, it's sort of a gas mask video, and then I'll put it back away because this is a requested video about dirty bombs. But what I'm actually going to talk about first is basically the different types of what we'd consider nuclear weapons. So there's no confusing, or hopefully no confusing a lot of them. And as you can probably hear, my cough's quite bad at the moment, so apologies for that, nothing I can do about that. So, what do we mean when we say nuclear weapons? Well, there's several types. So, the one most people always think of is the atomic bomb, the first type of nuclear weapons. Now, an atomic bomb or atom bomb works by splitting an atom. It's a thing called fission, where you split an atom. Now, they're not massively high yield. Yes, it's still a nuclear explosion, which is very big. But later came a thing called the hydrogen bomb, which used nuclear fusion. And what fusion does is it fuses atoms together, meaning you get a much bigger payload, essentially, with your explosive, your sort of massive, nuke, in a sense. So, hydrogen bombs, for the most part, have always replaced atom bombs. I think some sort of countries with nuclear ambitions still use atomic weapons, but all the major powers use hydrogen weapons because they're, simply one bomb makes a much bigger explosion, in a sense. Now, when lots of people think of nuclear weapons, they think of radiation. Now, the thing is that radiation is a byproduct of the atomic and the hydrogen bomb. It's not the primary thing. You're not trying to radiate an area, you're trying to just blow an area up. The radiation is like a side effect and the fallout and everything else. So, that's one of the things to pay attention to, that when people think of radiation as a weapon itself, that's a byproduct of nuclear bombs. It's not the primary sort of thing. Now, what you do have is a thing called the Neutron Bomb. Now, I may have discussed this in videos before, but the Neutron Bomb was basically where they came up with an idea of, rather than destroying all the houses and buildings in an area, why can't we coat an area with a massive, horrible amount of radiation? Now, I'm not sure exactly how neutron bombs work, because I didn't refresh my memory on them just before this video, but basically what you need to understand is that they make a massive amount of radiation, I think it's mostly gamma radiation, over the area the bomb detonates, but no real damage to anything. I think there's a small explosive charge to set the bomb off, but you don't get actually a massive explosion. The whole point is it's kind of a bit like using a chemical weapon. It's the idea that you don't damage the buildings or anything around, you just kill all the life basically using extreme amounts of radiation. However, there was found to be problems with the neutron bomb. And that was that if you dropped it on lots and lots of enemy troops, what might actually happen is that the enemy troops, realising that they'd been poisoned basically with radiation, and this is the interesting thing about radiation poisoning, in the extreme doses, radiation poisoning does not kill instantly. You're very sick initially, and then you're fine for a day or two and you suddenly die. And the reason for that, from what I can understand, is because the body is constantly replacing cells, you get your fatal dose of radiation, and that stops your body building new cells, but the cells currently in your body will be fine for as long as they last, a day or two. So, during that period, soldiers with nothing to lose, knowing that they're going to die in a couple of days anyway, would sort of banzai charge, just swarm over everything. And that's why the United States decided it was not a practical weapon to use, because if it was used on enemy troop formations, you're basically going to make a suicidal human wave attack you, which actually might be incredibly hard to stop. So the idea was that, neutron bombs didn't really serve a purpose, because it's better to just initially kill everything rather than poisoning everything. So those are your kind of official nuclear weapons. So what's a dirty bomb? It's basically very similar to a neutron bomb. The idea though of a dirty bomb isn't clever. It's not a nuclear explosion. I think that's one of the problems. Lots of Hollywood type things don't understand with dirty bombs. The idea of a dirty bomb, essentially, and I'm pretty sure dirty bomb, when people think of them, always think of radiological weapons, but I'm pretty sure you could actually have a dirty bomb in the sort of chemical, biological sense as well. But the idea is that you get some sort of nuclear material with a dirty bomb, and then what you do is you basically have an explosion, and the point of the explosion is to spread radioactive substances as far as possible. So it's basically to contaminate an area. So it's one of those things that terrorists would probably have the most use from, because it would be, fear weapon, that you would have your essentially dirty bomb in a van or something, or a cargo container in an urban area, big city or something, detonate it, and then you'd have all this radiation spread everywhere that's really you know, dangerous. Now, again, with lots of dirty bombs, there's probably not going to be enough radiation initially that it's a massive threat to everybody if you knew it was detonated. You could probably actually, you know, get everybody out of the area in an evacuation. Assuming your civil defence is good enough in the UK, it wouldn't be, but you could probably evacuate everybody. But the problem is, a dirty bomb, because of the half-life of radiation, and there's no real way you can decontaminate radiation, you know, properly. You can only really cover it up. You can't, you know, spray a chemical on it and get rid of it. You're probably going to have a massive area that's now irradiated for, you know, hundreds if not thousands of years. So if you were to do it in a capital city as a terrorist, well done. You might, you know, be able to stop people living there for millenniums, essentially. So a dirty bomb certainly is, in many ways, a very effective kind of weapon for that sort of reason for terrorists, but not for military usage. You know, a military would just drop several megatons worth of nuclear power, you know, megatons or kilotons onto a city and wipe it out that way. Just, you know, vaporised rather than actually trying to contaminate it so nobody could live there. So thankfully, nuclear materials are generally very, very well guarded. So, you know, it's not like somebody can just buy some on the market easily. Although I'm sure, like all these things, they are on the black market if you're willing to pay enough. You know, and the idea is, I suppose, that you'd have an explosive in it. Now, as I'm not a radiation expert, I cannot tell you, and I probably shouldn't even if I did know, what materials would probably be used. But you do hear news stories where sometimes, like, hospital scanners that involve radiation X-ray machines, things like that, are stolen with the intent of probably turning them into dirty bombs. But I doubt they'd be very effective. I also can't tell you of a dirty bomb how much of it would be alpha, gamma or beta, or alpha, beta and gamma, depending on which way you go through it. Because again, I'm assuming it depends on what's blown up to make the dirty bomb. But there you go, that's basically a dirty bomb. So how would you protect yourself from it? Well, the only really thing you can do is evacuate and decontaminate to best of your ability. As I said, with a mask as usual, if you knew there was radiation in the air, a mask is certainly better than nothing, because alpha radiation will be blocked by the mask. The filter will block it. But there's not much else you can do. So, a dirty bomb would be more like if you think of Chernobyl with Pripyat being contaminated and having to be abandoned. Think of the number 4 reactor at Chernobyl going up to be like the world's biggest dirty bomb. That's essentially how it would work. It's not a giant nuclear explosion that wipes everything out. It is basically just a massive area contaminated with radiation, meaning nothing can really live there for thousands of years.